Hey everyone, it's Will, GamerDad, with another video for you. So I've had a lot of people on my channel either post or ask the question, who to upgrade and when to upgrade? And just to be clarifying, by upgrading I mean from 4.5 to 5, for example, or even 3 to 4, and so on and so forth, and especially OG to AS. Now I may have mentioned this before, but first of all, it's really important to manage your resources. Most especially, Chronostones and even things like Sabira's gems and Chants and Treatises are both rare and limited in how you get them. Now keep in mind that even if you spend money, you can't buy Sabira's gems, although you can do the normal amount of whaling to get any 5-star you want. Now for us free-to-play, or even smaller spenders like dolphins and minnows, you really have to watch how you spend and when to spend. So, who to decide how to upgrade? Now first of all, if you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. Also, I do have a Patreon account for those who want to support me this way. Of course, this strategy also goes out the window if you have a husbando or a waifu that you really need to upgrade or want to upgrade from 4.5 to 5. If that's the case, that should trump all other strategies, and of course, at the end of the day, it is a game, so you should play it the way you want, and especially if that really makes you happy in upgrading that valued 4.5 Suzette to 5, it is worth it. Now, I would always recommend to do the 3 free encounter characters first. That is, Garyu, Azami, and Serene. The main reason why I say that is that literally you cannot get them as a 5-star any other way other than fighting them first as a 4-star and getting them as a 4.5, and then grinding the 5 chants as well as their appropriate tomes in order to upgrade them to a 5-star. Now in the case of Garyu, don't forget, you also have to upgrade from 3 to 4 and 4 to 5, so you need multiple steps in order to do that. Garyu is also one of the very few, I want to say the only free zone setter in the game so far that I'm aware of. So that should be one of your highest priorities. Although, if you've watched a lot of my other videos, I use Azami on my win DPS team quite nicely. So don't discount the fact that they are free to play, characters. They are very powerful, and since most of them, Serene should be coming up soon, have their manifests, they can do a lot of damage. And you've also seen me use basically all of them, including the AS Garyu, obviously as a fire zone setter, and even OG Garyu with manifest, and they fit into a lot of strong DPS teams as well as strategies. You can let me know in the comments below, how you find using these 3 free characters, or if you've really put them off for future. Because at the end of the day, if you've pulled a lot of banner characters and you do have a lot of, for example, in the case of Serene, Earth DPS, she might not be a priority to upgrade as opposed to Garyu, which, like I said, is a great, powerful fire mage, and in its AS form can do fire setting. Alright, so next on the list, I would highly recommend main story and episode characters to be upgraded. Even though they're a lot weaker, generally at least, they are worth upgrading. Now, unless you have every 5-star in the game from, either whaling or extremely lucky in the gacha, they will all have their uses, especially, in my opinion, Aldo and Amy. Now, of the other free characters or side quest characters, I would also recommend, upgrading and grinding out Gildna and Strawboy, as they have their uses too. Now, obviously, there's lots of honorable mentions. Helena, Fane, Rika 5-star, for example, still a free healer. There's a lot, Saki AS, for example, Saki, I may not have mentioned all of them, but they're all very good, and they do have their place in your team, especially if you are short on DPS characters. You see me use Cyrus, for example, as one of my main water DPS since I don't have a lot of gacha water DPS. So, they can fit in your team, especially if you haven't been extremely lucky in the gacha. And like I said, they are free. Don't forget to use them as light or shadow batteries as well to make the reward requirements for dungeons. Now, most dungeons only require 120 light or shadow. Some of them, of course, in the Guerrilla region, do require 360 light or shadow. And these are the only characters that you can grind out light or shadow. Now, if you need a reminder, you can watch my video on grinding light and shadow and which characters can be done for them, as well as which dungeons are applicable. Don't forget, Miyu and Seal, as well as the newest one, Bivet. Although they're kind of gacha, a lot of them have gotten them free either through the global release, for example, or in the case of just getting them as a side, and they don't cost a lot of chance to upgrade. If you also do their side quests, you earn a bunch of stones and chants as well, and they're always valuable since chants don't drop very frequently. Now, in terms of 4.5s, like gacha ones, this is where it gets tricky. Now, in general, I would recommend the following strategies, and this is how I usually think of things. But again, you can leave comments below if you feel that you have a different strategy and you want to share it with the community. First of all, if you can't beat any current content and absolutely need the unit as a 5-star, then you should upgrade that appropriate unit. Make sure you've studied either my videos or other strategy guides against the toughest content in the game, such as bosses or dungeons. At the toughest levels, keep in mind that straight DPS won't cut it. You'll need strategy, damage mitigation, you'll need buffs and debuffs, mastery of VCs, as well as a good rotation to counter boss moves. Remember, a lot of boss moves are set rotation, and you can really set your own rotation to counter those. So if you absolutely need to upgrade it, go for it. For example, I would say even now, Mario with the Warrior Force as a 5-star is amazing, or perhaps even Yuna OG as a 5-star. Now, in my example, I upgraded Dewey to a 5-star in order to beat that Fire Raccoon. So there are some examples where you really want to upgrade it and make sure you have that 5-star on your team. Secondly, if you have a lot of stones, who has a lot of stones other than purchasing them, of course, or if you still have either a Fateful or even a Star Dreams token that hasn't expired, you should wait until you have pulled on the upcoming banners that you're planning to pull on before upgrading anyone from 4.5 to 5. Nothing hurts more than spending 5 valuable chants and or treatises on a unit and then pulling it shortly after, either on a Fateful or a Star Dreams. One other thing to note is that most AS units are very cool, and they do have a lot of uses as well as top DPS for a lot of cases. But again, most of them are not necessary, and you might want to consider waiting on upgrading. Now, in my example, and you can see in my account, I have a lot of unused treatises as well. I'm planning to wait for now to see if I can pull, for example, a particular AS in the future, because I do have a few thousand stones, and I am planning to pull in future banners. Keep in mind also, you'll need the treatises for their enhanced VC Grasta, and you can't even buy treatises, even with whaling. Now, one last thing I wanted to note is you really need to examine your elemental teams to decide if you want to upgrade a 4.5 to 5. So in my case here with my Wind DPS team, you realistically need at least 1 strong healer and or 1 support, as well as 4 elemental DPS. Zone setters of course count towards your 4. And if you're missing that key unit to beat the content, then go for it. Now in this case, you remember that I paid Chant to upgrade Myumpha immediately after pulling her 4.5 because she's so valuable on an Earth-based team, and like I said, she is the only Earth zone setter in the game right now, so I instantly paid the 5 Chant. So there are instances and circumstances where you really want to do that. Now in case of the Fire team, again, I did pay to upgrade Yuan back in the day when I didn't have enough Fire DPS, so and of course, I also upgraded Xion. So, for the elements, I wasn't as lucky. I just paid it. And so far, haven't hit a 5-star version of Xion. Although I did hit a 5-star version of Yuan later. And you can see my Water DPS team. Dewey is now a valuable member of my 5-star team. And you can see I still have Cyrus in there, being that I don't have a Hismina or AS Yuna as my zone setter. But that being said, with the manifest weapons, and in conjunction with some good strategy, and purely, some RNG and luck in battling boss battles, you can do it. So, in conclusion, I hope this video really does summarize my thoughts about, upgrading and when to upgrade, as well as, trying to preserve a lot of your resources in the game. Again, I have to emphasize, most resources in this game, as well as many others in Gacha, are very finite, and so you really want to make sure you're careful in spending where you spend, as well as make sure when it's worth it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.